Hey, Bud, before we get started today, a couple of episodes ago, we talked about the Faroe Islands and we kind of aloofly, if that's the right term, mentioned Jesus on a stick, which we probably ought to give a little more context to the fun story that we've used on these last trips to kind of reel people in. So tell them the story that you came up with and where that comes from. And here, I'll try to move over here. You could there's
Yeah.
but if you look right here at the top, can you see my cursor? You can see it or not?
No,
You can't. Okay.
but that one little pinnacle in each of our images, these are the same image.
Yeah, so let's see, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that little
So we're on a photo tour back in, I don't know, it was probably
2019.
And we told this story about what that is. If we could blow that up, you would see it looks like a human figure standing there. And I told the story how the Faroe Islands had hired this Italian sculptor to craft a sculpture of Jesus, and they were lowering it with a helicopter onto this little stick here, as I call it. And it slipped and fell into the ocean and sank, and they had to hire him again to make a second one. And we told this story because if you look at that, it looks like Jesus standing there.
Yeah, it really
And
does.
so we had that group, I think, completely fooled for some time, especially, I won't mention his Jim Norman's name, but
No, I wouldn't. Jim might be
one person on the trip who fell for it. Although I suspect Jim probably researched it, knew we were full of baloney, and just was too polite to say anything.
That's true.
But we had the group going for some time, and we pulled it with this last group as well.
Yeah.
So
that's why it's a very loving reference to the Savior. We're not trying to be derogatory in any way, shape, or form, and it's just a good practical joke that we were able to pull when we were there. Now I completely forgot what the heck we were going to talk about for this. I know. Good light, bad light. Wow,
good light, bad light.
We are so bad. This is a very professional program, though.
Yeah. Where's the script?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there isn't any. So good light, bad light. And let me start this off this way because I kind of annoyed you, but I think it leads into a really valid point because once again, you're right. I hate to have to say that so much. But as we're out scouting, folks, I do have my phone with photo pills on it so that I can see where the sun's going to rise, where the sun's going to set. And so when we're at certain locations, it would be nice if the sun wasn't right behind a waterfall or right, it's going to be over to the left and obscured by that mountain and so forth, right? And you were just kind of like shaking your head, like, what does it matter? I mean, I think you said, I never go out thinking about where the sun's going to be. I just go out and let things happen. So, I think light matters. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're painting with light as photographers, but let's talk about this idea of good light, bad light. Better time of the day to go, shouldn't go here because the sun is going to be behind you versus that. So let's talk about that, why you think that is kind of maybe flawed thinking.
Well, it's going to just repeat the things that you've said yourself. If we go out with this preconceived idea of where we want the light, we've already concluded what the best shot is, and we're then trying to manipulate our schedule so we're there for the best light. But every light, whether it's midday coming straight down or we're shooting into the light, opens up a new door, a new opportunity, and a new image that wouldn't be possible if it weren't for that new kind of light. So I never, ever think about where the sun will be because it's going to open a new image, a new door. And I can't tell you, like when we were at that one little town and I had gone out and get fish and chips. You guys stayed in the restaurant. And I finished, and I'm sitting there in the parking lot looking at the bay, and I'm shooting into the reflection of the light. And I got these incredible patterns made even better with long exposures and was having a field day. And I'm thinking, and I'm shooting into the light where many people would say, oh, there's no shot here because you're shooting into the light. or it's midday light, or it's whatever.
It sounds
It's
like
just a
rules,
new
doesn't it?
opportunity. Yeah, well, it kind of is. Or
Yeah.
preconceived ideas, or, I want the light to be here. So if it's anywhere else, oh, I didn't get what I wanted. There must not be anything else to be had.
Another one that comes to my mind is, I think it's Sudaroy. Is that where we took the ferry down to the island we had not been to yet? Pretty sure that's Sudaroy. And remember, we went all the way to that remote lighthouse at the very end. And I remember you, same thing. The light was pretty harsh when we got there, and the light was out directly in front of you, and yet you're having a party photographing. Remember those little patterns
Oh
in the
yeah,
water?
that's one of my. So far, it's in the keeper pile.
Yeah,
We should do that sometime. Take a bunch of images that were shot in bad light and show them.
yeah. Bad light, right? I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
and I've probably mentioned this on a previous show, but Freeman Patterson, the brilliant, wonderful Freeman Patterson, who I adore, and I had the blessing of being able to study with him back in 2004. And I guess I haven't told it on the show, so it's worthy of talking about in this discussion. We were heading out to photograph the poppies, which are abundant carpets of them in South Africa, up in Nuravir area, where we were, and I was studying with him back in 2004, and we didn't leave until 11 in the morning, and of course, this is a long time ago, and so I have in my brain, well, the rule says you're supposed to go out for that early morning light, so I go up to Freeman and I say, Freeman, why are we leaving so late to photograph the flowers? Isn't it better to photograph the flowers in the better light in the early morning versus when we get there, it's going to be noon. It's going to be really harsh light. And he looks at me and he says, huh, I never thought about that. And of course, at that moment, I'm like, oh crap, I am going to be schooled by the master right now. He said, and this is the line I'll never forget, John, light's light. It's just light. And once you categorize it as good or bad, you're in trouble. So it's just light, John. And by the way, the poppies don't unfurl until they're warm enough, and that's about 11 o'clock. So a funny little side note that we're going out because but again, so it's even more instructive that the poppies are not going to unfurl and be their most beautiful until 11 or 12 o'clock. So there's no chance to photograph them in good, best, better quality of light. It doesn't exist. And so what a powerful lesson that Freeman taught me back then. It's just light, John.
Yeah.
Stop categorizing it, stop naming it, stop doing all that, and just be with the light that you have.
Yeah.
Hey,
I
new
mean,
shirt,
I
be with the light.
go towards the light.
Be the light.
I love shooting into the light. I know people think that's a no-no, but it creates backlit things are awesome sometimes. It creates great contrast. I love it with water. So I think, learn to enjoy all types of light. Don't go out with a preconceived idea of what you want. That's always dangerous
Yeah.
because you miss the other things that are presenting themselves.
The argument's going to be, and I'm going to do it because I want to hear what you have to say. The argument's going to be, but there's nothing wrong with the Josh Cripps, our dear friend, and Josh. He's a engineer by training, turned photographer, loves photo pills, teaches for them at some of their seminars. There is something to be said for saying, look, I want to get a shot where I've got the sun coming through the hole in the arch, and setting that up, right? I don't think there's anything inherently wrong.
Yeah.
To me, that's creative and saying, and using your intelligence and your smarts and your tools to be able to say, hey, I'm going to pull off that starburst going through the arch, a delicate arch in Utah. So I do think there are times where planning and using some of those tools is not a bad thing. I do, and I 100% though, I'm all the way the opposite side of Josh. Number one, I'm not smart like Josh. Number two, I so much more enjoy just being present in the moment and allowing that to happen.
Well, this can lead to our next discussion in a next couple of minutes about how we're all different. And I'd like to talk about that
Okay.
because we are quite a bit different in what we like to shoot or how we think, how we learn.
Yep.
So let's talk about that next.
All right. Good to see you again, and I'll see you in a couple of seconds.
Okay.